This is just gonna be me and my descent into being a Cleo White superfan. Really sweet, really wholesome, but also really hot. Sassy back and forths, the growing banter. Like, oh my gosh, what is happening? Let me get to the end. Let me get to the point. Love a man who yearns. We do, we do. Hey, it's Betty. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. In today's video, I'll be going over my quarterly reads from April and May. So this is now officially the third episode of the Book Talk podcast, which is exciting. Yay, look at me sticking to things, being consistent. So if you're new here, if you're unfamiliar with the format, in this podcast, I basically go over all of the books that I've been reading recently. I give a little brief rundown of the tropes and give my reviews and if I recommend them or not. I also go over my very extensive TBR list. That's to be read for those who don't know. And ask for you guys book recommendations as well. 1 second, I need to drink. Got some multivitamin juice today because I've run out of matcha, and so I'm drinking juice. It's got orange, peach, carrot, and ginger, so very healthy. Also, shout out to this cute cup again. This is adorable. I love it. Thank you to my friend who got that for me for my birthday. But anyway, as you can see here, I have a somewhat small pile of books from the past 2 months. Now, admittedly, I was in a bit of a slump. I was a bit more slow this past 2 months in terms of reading, and I did have to wait a little bit and save up for some of these books. By the way, if you can see a visual difference between the last few episodes and this episode, I do indeed have new filming lights. Yay! Love that for me. Let me know what you think of the lighting situation, if you like this quality or if I should tone it down a bit. I'm still experimenting with the setups and trying to find the perfect 3-point lighting techniques or whatever. Let me know what you think of the visuals and if you like it, or if I should go back to the more moody, dark kind of vibe that I had before. But without further ado, let's get into some book reviews. So first up we have Tusk Love by Thea Guanzon. This is a cute little romantasy set in the world of Critical Role. So the tropes of this are grumpy ex-sunshine, false proximity, it's a romantasy, opposites attract. I guess you could say monster ex-human. The MMC, that's male main character, is half orc. As someone who knows nothing about Critical Role and very little about D&D in general, I really didn't know anything about the world or the backstory going into this. So I did occasionally have trouble imagining some of the character descriptions and the setting descriptions as well. Like, I didn't know what every kind of creature was, and some of the names in this are pretty hard to pronounce. Like, I couldn't pronounce them in my head while I was reading this. That being said though, the more likely intended audience for this book that would be familiar with all of that would not have an issue, so I think that is just a me thing, and ultimately it didn't really stop me from enjoying the story that much. So it's absolutely not the author's fault that I didn't get every single part of this. As I said, I know nothing about Critical Role or D&D. One thing that really initially surprised me when I started reading this was the narrative point of view and tense. Because this is written as a dual POV, you get both perspectives of the MMC and the FMC respectively, but it is entirely written in the third person. And at first, I found that really awkward to get into, and it did take me a few chapters to get past it and get into the flow of the reading, really. Because usually with dual POVs, they are written in the first person directly from the perspective of the characters, whereas this is still third person, but you still somehow get insight into the actual character's stream of thought and what's going on around them. I don't know, it's pretty hard to explain, it's kind of confusing, but I hope you understand what I mean. Yes, that is something to bear in mind if you are someone who is very particular about your point of views or your tenses while reading. I got used to it in the end. It didn't detract from the story too much, but to each their own. I did really enjoy this, and I did actually find myself giggling and laughing out loud at various times. I really enjoyed the banter in this. Sassy back and forths, the growing banter, the little bits of tension here and there. The character arc of both characters was kind of predictable given the nature of the story, but I still really enjoyed their character arcs, and it felt satisfying and quite heartwarming, honestly. They both went through the necessary hardships and realizations that they had to in order to improve themselves, become the better version of themselves, not just for themselves, but also for each other. Now, in terms of spicy scenes, this is a book that does have spice in it, by the way. There wasn't anything super frequent or nothing obscene, nothing crazy, super kinky, but they were still great, they were still enjoyable. They were written in a way that made sense. They felt organic, and they were an important part of showing the growing connection between the characters, like it actually served a purpose. There was also a lot of action and adventure and good tension in this that was really enjoyable as well. And I actually did end up skim reading quite a bit towards the end of this because it was so intense and high stakes towards the end. So I was just like, oh my gosh, what is happening? Let me get to the end. Let me get to the point. And it was worth it in the end. But yes, overall, I did really enjoy this despite not knowing anything about Critical Role or D&D. So if you're looking for a more adventurous but cozy, slightly spicy, fanta-filled romantasy, then I would definitely highly recommend this book. Now, these next 3 books are all by the same author, Cleo White. This is just gonna be me and my descent into being a Cleo White superfan. Yes, the next book I read was Second Edition by Cleo White. I have been dying to get my hands on this for so long, had this on my TBR for so long. I so badly wanted to read this. I kept seeing excerpts of this on Instagram and I was just going feral with the need to read this. So as you can imagine, I was very happy when I finally got my hands on this. So this is a age gap, forbidden romance, forced proximity. This was both really heartwarming and kind of heart-wrenching at the same time at various points throughout the book. There were a lot of raw and relatable moments from both characters' perspectives throughout this. And I really loved their dynamic and how realistic the conflict in the story was. It wasn't anything super blown out of proportion, like there were realistic stakes. Like the stakes are reasonably high, especially for the MMC Ellis in this. Side characters in this are not extremely detailed. They don't have a lot of depth to them, but they do still make their impact where they need to in their respective scenes. And they were likable and you could genuinely imagine them as real people that you may know. And as someone who is kind of a relatively recent graduate as well, Josephine, the FMC's story, did really speak to me on a more personal level as she struggles to find her footing and her passion in life. I also really appreciated how delicately they handled matters of neurodivergency with the MMC's daughter, Zoe. I really appreciated that none of the adults took their frustrations out on Zoe and that they gave her the space, the necessary space that she needed. She's given a lot of grace for her condition and she's just made to feel loved and accepted unconditionally just the way she is, and that was really sweet. So there's also autism representation in this. And yes, I really liked how it was handled in the story. Now moving on to the more spicy elements of the story between the main characters. Love a man who yearns. We do, we do. The spicy scenes in this were spicing, I tell you. The mouth on this man. I also love how considerate they were of each other's needs in this, and that there was gentle reassurance where it was needed. Overall, their relationship in this was really sweet, really wholesome, but also really hot. I really loved the scenery and the world building in this, and then obviously the dynamic and the relationship between all the characters, especially the main characters. And it was just really sweet and really wholesome, but also very spicy, which I really appreciate. So if you're someone who is looking for a spicy, age gap, forced proximity, wholesome romance, 10 out of 10, I definitely recommend this book. Next up is Out of Sight by Cleo White again. This is another age gap, forbidden romance, forced proximity story. And as you can see, this is much skinnier compared to the other books. This is the shortest of the lot. So the story itself is 155 pages, and then you have a bonus excerpt from another book at the end. So altogether it's 167 pages, so it's a very short and digestible read. This is a short and sweet, insta-love, insta-lust kind of story where he falls first, which we love. It has a lot of spice. This has a lot of good spice. I remember in my book review that I wrote on Goodreads, which by the way, you can follow me on there in the description. I remember I wrote, Judah is one sexy mother effer, because we love a tall, sexy, protective man who's not afraid to claim the woman he loves. Like he would literally throw hands for her. So because it is quite a short story, it's literally less than 200 pages, there isn't a lot of time for in-depth background development of a lot of characters. Like the side characters, you get very fleeting kind of descriptions of their backstory and their relation to the main characters in this. So there wasn't a lot of background development other than important bits of context where it was needed for the story. But I do feel like there was still enough information where it mattered. Plus there's always the potential for sequels and spin-off stories for the side characters. I'll be honest, I was kind of hoping for a little more conflict, a little more confrontation towards the end there with the FMC's parents. Maybe it was better that they left things the way they did. I'm not going to spoil anything too much, but some people deserve to get whooped a little bit in this. The FMC's parents in this were absolutely despicable. They are deplorable human beings who deserve nothing. Nothing. The spice in this did make me blush a little bit a couple times. It was pretty intense. It was quite kinky. Not super kinky, but very descriptive at times. Short but intense kind of scenes. Side note, if you have a daddy kink, you will be very satisfied with this. I'm just saying. I'm not saying anything about me. I'm just saying if you are someone who's into that, you will be very happy. Overall, I like the vibes, I like the scenery. It's set on an island in the tropics. The he falls first trope and how supportive he is and how possessive he is, and also just the spiciness of it all. Would definitely recommend if you're looking for a short, fun, spicy read. 10 out of 10, 5 stars. Lastly, we have Revelation, once again by Cleo White. This is actually a brand new release that I managed to get my hands on quite quickly after release. I literally finished reading this yesterday morning, quickly, so I could film this video. But yes, this is a enemies to lovers, forced proximity, heiress and bodyguard, age gap romance set in the modern era. This book was really worth the wait. This is a true enemies to lovers story. I mean, the name calling, the tension, the spiciness, the hatred in this, oh my. The build-up is kind of long, but the end results are very worth the wait. The first spicy scene isn't until around roughly the halfway point of this book, but it is worth the wait, and I think it does actually make it a little more intense. But as I've said, this is a true enemies to lovers. Like, they hate each other for most of this book. Like, the first half, they cannot stand to be around one another. She calls him Satan. What's the other one? Turd Face, I think. There are various poop-related names as well. Evil incarnate, I think, at one point. They hate each other. I think it's in chapter 21 where they have a heartfelt revelation and their dynamic shifts so that they understand each other more, and they're more honest with each other and about their feelings toward one another as well. And we love to see a man taking accountability for his actions. I really enjoyed all the banter and all the snark between the characters throughout this. Like, it genuinely made me giggle out loud a number of times. It is a somewhat emotional read, but I don't know if that's just me being hormonal, but it's not like super sad or anything. There's nothing particularly tragic in this. I found myself being more emotional reading second edition than this. But yes, I really enjoyed this. I read through this as quickly as I could. Whenever I wasn't reading it, I was constantly thinking about it. And again, there seems to be a common theme of very shitty parents in this and like shitty family members in general. So that's something to bear in mind if you are easily triggered by that. There isn't as much frequent spice in this because it is an enemies to lovers kind of a slow burn kind of story. You do need to build up to it. There's not a lot of it, but there's a couple chapters where there are some longer scenes. And it is pretty spicy, nothing obscene, nothing insane, nothing the dark romances of TikTok would have you read, but it is still spicy and still worth reading and still very enjoyable. But yes, if you love enemies to lovers, creative name calling, witty banter, back and forth and snark, kind of Beauty and the Beast-esque storytelling in that they are trapped in a location together and he's very grumpy with her, and they're in forced proximity and the characters gradually fall in love, then you will love this and I highly recommend it. Another 10 out of 10 read, another 5-star read. Now I do also have a list of some of my next planned reads as well here, so I'll be going through some of those. My to be read list on Goodreads is insanely long. It grows by the day. 48, 49, almost 50 books on there now, I think. But I had some trouble coming up with what my next read should be, and I do have a couple books here already that I do want to read as well. But yes, so first up I have Twisted Love by Anna Huang, which I still need to read. I got this from my friend for my birthday. Shout out to you, Sam. Mwah, love you. I've read very mixed reviews about this, and there were other books that I wanted to get through first, hence why I haven't started this yet. But I do intend to start reading this soon, and then I'll see how it goes, if I DNF or if I do end up liking it. Stay tuned for the next podcast episode and you'll find out what I think about it. Speaking of, 89% of my viewers are not subscribed, so if you could just take a quick little second, just scroll down a little bit and click the subscribe button, and when you do, don't forget to click the little bell icon so that you're notified when I next upload a video. And then another book I still need to read, which is pretty hefty and I've been putting it off because it's so hefty, is Prince of Prohibition by Marilyn Marks. This is a beautiful but massive book. As you can see, she is thick. So I wanted to get through some of my shorter reads first before I get into that and commit to reading it because it is so long. It's almost 600 pages, I think. It's like 550 something, I don't know. But yes, that will probably be last on my TBR list here. And then next on my list here, I've got Serpent's Bride by Catherine Ann Kingsley and The Serpent's Sin. This is a duology, a vampire romance that I've had on my list for quite some time as well. I think since last year, possibly. So hopefully I can get my hands on those as well soon. In the meantime, I will probably be reading this first and then I'll let you know how I get on. So that's that. That is everything I read in the last 2 months. Thank you so much for watching. If you stuck around until the end, be sure to go back and check out the previous 2 episodes of this podcast if you want to catch up and if you want more book recommendations. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a big thumbs up. Let me know if you've read any of these books in the comments, what you thought of them, or if there's any recommendations that you have that I should go over, anything else I should read, and consider subscribing. And if you do click subscribe, don't forget to click the little bell icon so that you're notified whenever I next upload a new video. And in the meantime, why don't you check out one of these 2 lovely bits of content here on your screen being recommended to you by YouTube right now. And I will see you in the next one. Bye!